right, please identify yourselves.
Katherine Hancock, Ragsdale, president of PRA.
Chip Berlet, senior analyst of PRA.
What is the role of Political Research Associates going to be in the time of President Obama, as opposed to what it's been for the last 8 years under President Bush with the neoconservatives and so on?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people make the assumption that when there's a liberal in power that our work becomes less urgent and less important. Actually, what we've discovered over several decades is when the right's not in power, they use that time to do their strategizing and movement building. So the work of PRA becomes even more important, and there's even more of it.
And one of the things that we've discovered is that when the right is out of power, it has debates in on its websites and its print publications about how they're going to get back into power, what frames, what narratives, what stories, what slogans they're going to try out. And they sort of field test a lot of these ideas. And it's not magic. We subscribe to the publications, we monitor the websites, and we can't tell you how it's going to turn out, but we can tell you that there were 4 or 5 ideas being floated, and one of them is likely to be the place where everyone lands on the same page.
How can progressives best use PRA's research material?
We think it's important to look at this material to see what ways the right will be framing their arguments in the time to come so that we're better prepared to respond to them. The other thing we have discovered is that while the right uses the time that they're not in power to movement build, the left doesn't. When the left's not in power, it's busy providing social direct services to help the people who are being left out by the right's power. So it's a time of movement building for the left. We movement build when we're in power, and using PRA's materials can also help folks figure out what tropes of the right need to be responded to, as well as what might be good responses that the left can make in order to build its movement, to take the people who have been mobilized by this amazing election season and make them organized as well, turn them into educated, long-term workers.
Another way we can help is to explain not only are there different ideological sectors of the political right, but there's different methodological sectors. People have different means for achieving their goals. So the strategy you might develop to confront and challenge the ideas of a Christian right group would not be appropriate for dealing with a bunch of armed neo-Nazis who are painting swastikas on people's houses. So you have to be aware of both the ideological different sectors of the right, as well as the fact that, the approach you use with somebody who really is playing within the rules of the democratic process really is different from people who step outside the law and engage in assault, harassment, and murder.
Even less extreme than that, among groups that are playing within the process, the goals as well as the means of the Christian right may vary deeply from the business right. And understanding that and being able to then figure the best ways to counteract what are apt to be very different tactics as well as different goals is important to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're in the very beginning of the Obama administration, but we're already seeing, are we not, some of these frames and tropes that you're talking about emerging. What are some of those right now?
Well, we're looking at a resurgence of the idea that Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the New Deal put America on the slippery slope towards socialism and communism. And there's a long history of that kind of thinking on the political right, and it's very well developed. And I think they're going to move forward very quickly, a sector of the right, saying that all of this money that's being spent by the Obama administration to put people to work is a bad idea. We also see the idea that racism is over. So there's no role for the federal government, the state government, or anybody in trying to redress the ongoing systems of oppression and institutionalized forms of racism that black people and other people of color still face in the United States. And on top of that, we see a very unusual movement to raise women up in the conservative right to run as Republican candidates in the spirit of Sarah Palin, which, 20 years ago would have been pretty unthinkable for the political right, but they've matured, at least in terms of understanding where the country has moved. And so they're going to be promoting more women candidates and more women leaders in a very, I would say, cynical way, but nonetheless empowering women within their own party. And that's a challenge the left has to be able to face.
Thank you so much. Chip Berlet and Katherine Ragsdale for Political Research Associates. I'm Jan Nunley for Public Eye Online.